On this episode, we're talking with Isabel Washington, the founder of Laurel's, a rapidly growing ready-to-drink coffee brand powered by Regenerative A2 Dairy. We dive into Isabel's personal journey discovering A2 milk, how it transformed her relationship with dairy, and why it became the cornerstone of her brand. You'll hear how she spotted a massive gap in the RTD coffee aisle where 90% of products were non-dairy, and why she designed Laurel's first 3 SKUs to reflect what people actually order at real coffee shops. Isabel also pulls back the curtain on the scrappy, behind-the-scenes grind of building a CPG brand from scratch, from tying up all her money in the first production run to grinding through 40 demos in 50 days at Erewhon. And we talk about the bigger picture, how content, culture, and motivated moms will determine the future of regenerative food and beverage. Isabel keeps it real, brings the laughs, and drops plenty of wisdom. Let's dive in. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Regen Brands podcast. Very excited today to have my friend Isabel from Laurel's Coffee joining us. So welcome, Isabel.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Excited to talk about some very tasty A2 lattes today. I was super excited. I think the first time I saw you and your brand and your products, Isabel, was on LinkedIn, and then had a chance to chat with you via Zoom, and then saw you at Expo West and kind of kept in touch since. And I love that you're bringing kind of Regen A2 Dairy into this category. It's sorely needed, I think, for a lot of the coffee consumers that you will break down much more eloquently than I, but also just to get more regenerative A2 dairy back into people's diets, I think is a game changer. So anyway, for those that are not familiar yet with the brand, just share briefly what y'all produce today and where can people find those products and what stores?
Yes, of course. So we make A2 dairy lattes made with regenerative A2 dairy. We have 3 SKUs or flavors, as they're commonly called: classic, dirty chai, and matcha. The idea being that most of the coffee category is a variety of things, but one thing that it is a lot of the same legacy flavors. It's the mochas, the salted caramels, the vanillas, and it's not what people are actually getting when they go to the store. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't know the last time that I got a salted caramel latte when I went to my neighborhood coffee shop. I probably got, either a dirty chai or something with a cream top or, a matcha or something kind of fun like that. And I wanted to build something new and exciting and fun that people couldn't get anywhere else. So that's the gist of it. We're sold in around 1,000 doors right now. Whole
Nice.
Foods nationwide being our current rollout. It's happening. We're adding doors as we speak, which is pretty crazy to log in every morning and add it and go into the portal and see another door that's scanning product.
Nice.
So yeah, but besides that, we're in, the Erewhons, Herstal Farms, Gelson's of the world, Wegmans on the East Coast. And then we're also, in the Foxtrots and Good Eggs and Berkeley Bowl and all of our friends there.
Nice. Yeah, it's very impressive. I think what you've accomplished, you really just launched the brand in January of 24? So it's only been a year and a half?
Yeah, so I started working on it in January of 24. We launched in August of last year. So
Okay.
we just celebrated 1 year.
Yeah. So really just a year out in the market. So congrats on all that. That's amazing. And clearly what you saw in the gap in the category is resonating with consumers. But before we dive into that, I think that's largely informed by your personal story and history as kind of a user of these products or products like it. So take us back. Give us a little bit about your background, why you started this brand, and what you really saw as a consumer that led you to produce these products.
Yeah, so my journey with A2 actually started with Alex Ice Cream, who I know is a friend. And I cannot thank him enough for a variety of things. I mean, he's become a friend, but he really was kind of the first pioneer that I'll say where I looked into the market, and I grew up dairy insensitive. I usually tell people that I went from breast milk to soy milk and then to almond milk and then to oat milk and, it's all of the things. And
Yeah.
Alex popped up, very early. I also am pretty early on things in general. I consumed Olipop, back in high school, which is crazy. I was in high school when it launched. But I think that I started eating Alex in college, which must have been right around when they had launched.
Yeah.
And a lot of people very early into their journey had seen a lot of success. They hadn't been able to eat dairy or eat ice cream in 10, 15, 20 years, and they could sit down and eat an entire pint of Alex comfortably. So I was like, okay, this is super interesting. both my mom and myself, I mean, I like love food. I love ice cream. So this was super relevant to what I was looking for at the time. And I went to, I think it was Erewhon actually,
Hmm.
and picked up a pie of ice cream. And I was like, okay, so this is interesting. I can eat this entire thing. And like, I'm a true believer. So that was kind of just like a blip in time. This was back in like 2021 or maybe 2022. And I actually joined consulting post grad. So when I had tried the ice cream originally, I was in college at USC, graduated in 22, and then joined McKinsey and worked in the consumer space with much bigger. I mean, you have to be $1 billion company, if not like publicly traded to hire McKinsey, but so far from the startup world. And I really enjoyed being part of those brands and seeing how they thought about consumers. And like to give an example, like Lululemon, they started as like yoga and leggings and women and sports bras, and then they kind of moved. Now they have a men's line that honestly is better than a women's line in a lot of ways. Now
Hmm.
they have shoes, and but at the forefront of that is like always product quality. And
Hmm.
you can kind of think like, okay, a pair of Lululemon leggings is $120, but I think I've had the same ones for like 5 years versus, if you go to Old Navy or Target or whatever. So I really like that experience. I like that they were consumer focused when you went into the stores. Like you'll always have a good experience. They know your name, all of these things. So in early 2023, when I was kind of thinking about what's next and leaving McKinsey, I knew that it was going to be something in food and beverage. I'd applied to kind of a ton of food and beverage brands, like early stage startups, Grunes being one of them. Actually, most notably, I got pretty far in their interview process. Shout out Chad, but I didn't end up getting any of those roles, embarrassingly enough, and was kind of like, okay, I maybe I'll just kind of do my own thing.
Mm.
And I had some savings kind of piled up from my time. I mean, it was never meant to like quit a job and not have an income. It was just like
Yeah.
savings as you do when you're 23 years old. And then in January of 2024, I quit McKinsey and started working on Laurel's. And I mean, it was a crazy like 8 months from the very first time I ever took a picture of a grocery store shelf with canned coffee to, being on shelf my own brand in Erewhon. It was 8 months. And
Hmm. Um,
it was designed that way. Like I didn't have the fortune of sitting on excess amounts of money. I mean, my parents are my first investors, I call them, and they definitely have written smaller checks into the company, but they weren't just going to like sit around and support my lifestyle while I, built a beverage
yeah.
brand just kind of for fun. So, and then I also like, I kind of had the golden handcuffs in the way from when I was at McKinsey, and I gotten used to go on vacations, and I had
Yeah.
bought a BMW and bought a watch and lived in a nice neighborhood in LA, and I kind of had a lifestyle to maintain that had become expensive, and it wasn't conducive to not having an income. So I was like, I kind of need to get this show on the road, or I'm gonna have to get a real job. Like that's really
Yeah.
just kind of what it came down to.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have the luxury of not launching any slower. So
Hmm.
um,
Were
yeah, I mean that
you
was. Go ahead.
were you informed by the experience with A2 to then look at applying it to the coffee category, or were those kind of separate things that then merged into one, like where you knew there was this gap in coffee? I mean, on the website, it talks about you basically being a caffeine addict like myself and consuming all this coffee both in college and then at McKinsey. But like, how did those two things kind of come together into what it is now?
Yeah, so I knew it was gonna be a beverage. Um, A2, I mean, kind of like thinking back, I was like, okay, like A2 is super interesting. Again, I'm early on things. I should like monetize this somehow. But
Mm.
I knew that people would move back to real sources of meat and dairy. Like I knew that the whole kind of like plant-based thing, it just wasn't sustainable. I mean, not even like environmentally. Like it just like
Yeah.
was not sustainable. And there's always going to be people, my parents most notably, who never bought into it to begin with.
Mm.
Um, and love meat, cheese, dairy. Like it just wasn't gonna go anywhere. So um So with that, like I had the A2 component, but it was also really important to think about like, okay, why did I as a consumer move away from milk? Like what
Mm.
made me make that shift in the first place? And it was
Mhm.
because I was experiencing real things like, the bubble guts, the indigestion, the discomfort, the gas, all of those things. That wasn't for nothing. Like
Yeah.
I would drink a glass of milk and then, you know, fart for the next like 6 hours. Like that was that was very real. Or I would eat pizza or mac and cheese or, kind of
Yeah.
whatever it was. And with that, I was like, okay, what's kind of the next avenue to put this special dairy, into the market? And I wasn't gonna sell on Alex Toes and do ice cream again. Like, I think that had
Mm,
already kind of been played out, and you did an incredible job. But the next kind of like milk abundant category was coffee. And if you look at
mm,
coffee, 85%, 90% of it is alt milks of one variety to the next, whether it's almond milk, oat milk, coconut milk, like Chamberlain
wow.
Coffee uses. If not, black coffee, obviously not being a part of that, or like Tashes or however you pronounce it, the pistachio milk company, like they have their RTD, that's pistachio milk. So there's all these different types of milk, or just like, the low fat, cheapest milk you can find. But there wasn't really anything. I mean, no one was using A2 in the category. And I felt that that's where the consumption of milks, whether it's alt or, fluid milk, was going. So it
Mhm.
kind of made a lot of sense for me to think about that and how we can integrate that into the product.
Do you think that was also, or have you seen any data, like, was that also driven because some of the alt milks were cheaper from a COGS perspective, or was it basically just that cultural trend swing of alt and now we're back into real dairy? Like that 85 to 90% is like a very high number. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot. Like that's the
Yeah.
vast,
I mean,
vast majority.
I think that's where the trends were. And like, even, I mean, last summer at this point, when I had launched Erewhon into retail, I would have conversations with people in that target demographic, 25, 28-year-old women who live active lifestyles and they're shopping at Erewhon. And they would come up to me and be like, you know what? I am glad dairy's back. Like, I don't have dairy insensitivities. I just didn't
Mm.
want to get judged by my barista when I would order a whole milk latte at the coffee shop,
Yeah.
or my friends, or, like Starbucks was curating their entire menu and honestly still does around like oat milk and their huge partnership with Oatly. And like half the drinks, like they have an oat cream top and like all of these things, like it's just where the trends were.
Hmm.
And brands kind of had to adapt to that. I mean, the first mover, I think Rise, not that they were first, but like that's kind of someone who comes to mind, thinking of someone who has a ton of share in the alternative milk coffee space. Um, Even La Colombe, like they originally launched as dairy because that's where the
Hmm.
trend was there. And now they have like one or two maybe alt milk SKUs. They never really super leaned into it, which I think is a testament to the fact that dairy never went away in the first place. But um yeah, that's where things were. I always say that Starbucks built the oat milk industry, or the alt milk
Yeah.
industry kind of as a whole. Like as soon as they put it on their menu, it blew up.
Yeah. There's a quote that you use in a LinkedIn post one time that I wrote down, which was, to quote you, the only RTD coffee built to reflect what consumers actually order at a coffee shop, which you were kind of talking about this earlier, which I think is very reflective in your three like hero SKUs right now, right? The classic latte, the dirty chai, and the matcha. And when I think about my girlfriend, my general friend group, like those are the top three things that they are ordering when they walk into the coffee shop.
Mm.
What led you to that realization, and maybe like why has the category not reflected that yet? Like just talk about that
Yeah.
that key category insight that has, honed these first three SKUs for you.
Yeah. So it's kind of a gamble, right? Because on one hand, it's like, well, why am I going to make something new if I
Mhm.
can just make another salted caramel latte? And that's been played out 1,000 times in the marketplace. And like everyone understands that and knows what it tastes like. The other piece of it being, I don't think about building the brand, which is obviously a more difficult way to do it. I don't think about it as like, okay, I'm going to steal customers from La Colombe. I'm going to steal customers from Pop and Bottle.
Mm,
I think of it as, okay, I'm going to introduce a customer to this aisle who walks past it because everyone walks past the cooler set
mm,
and nothing has ever caught their eye.
mhm.
Um, and that's why they're going to pick up the product and try it. So the idea of that being, I mean, down to our packaging, like a lot of people are like, why is this giant cow staring at me? Like from across the aisle. But that sparks a lot of curiosity, and that's like very common feedback we've gotten.
Yeah.
There's even like to kind of go to our matcha SKU, there's only like 3 or 4 matcha SKUs that you'll find.
Mhm.
One is Pop and Bottle, another one's Taika, and then another one might be, a Japanese native brand. It's a matcha Americano type. It's like not sweetened. There's not really an abundance there, despite it being, I mean, it's blown up in the last
Right.
like 18 months, let alone like kind of the
Yeah.
trend that over the past 5 years of general matcha consumption.
Mhm.
So the category just like wasn't there. And I would go in and like genuinely the biggest thing for me was like, why what are these flavors? Like I don't know any of this. It was unfamiliar. It was unfamiliar in a way that didn't make any sense because the entire category was that. Like
Yeah.
you have 55,000 salted caramel lattes to choose from, but I don't know what that tastes like because I never had that.
Mm.
So it was just super interesting to me. And then to get into like, what an investor would want to hear. It's like, okay, well, Gen Z and younger millennial women are the largest consumers of iced coffee. They're large consumers of matcha. They're the ones who are really driving a lot of this like fourth or fifth or 10th wave coffee revolution that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Whether it is, blowing up coffee shops, what TikTok's done has been crazy. The way that like,
Mhm.
they'll turn a 10-year-old coffee shop into a line out the door the next day. So a lot of that is being driven by that demographic. And they oftentimes are the ones who are willing to be a little bit more adventurous. Who, I mean, look what Poppy's done. Like they're excited
Right.
about brands that resonate with them, and you're not really reinventing the wheel. Like I'm not doing anything net new. Dirty chai is something that people are familiar with mostly. Matcha's new. A classic latte is really just a vanilla latte. It has vanilla extract in it, but it's not called that intentionally, so it's not the same thing on the shelf. Um, so that was kind of the thought process behind it.
How do you think about, like, trying to convert some of those people that are gonna would typically prefer, would typically go to the coffee shop to have the drink made instead of buying an RTD beverage,
Yeah.
off the shelf at grocery?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of societal things that are contributing to it. I mean, one, like people who are unfamiliar with RTD coffee set specifically are like, "Oh my gosh, like $3, $3.99, $4.99, like we are at Erewhon or not at Erewhon, at Whole Foods for canned coffee,
Mhm.
like that's crazy." But then they go to Starbucks and they'll spend $7 on a pumpkin spice latte
Mhm.
and on a grande nonetheless, like that's pretty expensive. I think like the cost of living has just gotten really high. That a canned coffee that can get you to like 75-80% of the quality for half the price sometimes, and
Yeah.
half the calories, half the sugar, if not more, I guess less of those things, isn't so bad. And then where we're at as a society with like work culture and hustle and moving quickly, people just don't have time for those things anymore. Like
Yeah.
no one I mean, I have great coffee shops in my neighborhood, and sometimes the line's out the door, and, like, I gotta go. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
time to stand in that line, um, and sometimes you just want something that can be with you where you are.
Mhm.
You can pack it in your lunchbox, you can store it in the office fridge, you can drink it on the way to wherever you're going, a workout, a date. It's not a crazy amount of caffeine that, you're gonna be up all night. It's only 80 milligrams, so it really is kind of like an all-day thing. Um And that's unfortunately, and capitalism, this, that, and the other, but like that's kind of just where we're at as a society that people really just don't have time to sit and enjoy things. So again, a lot of the product quality piece of it, we don't use vanilla flavor, we use vanilla extract. We don't use any of the artificial sweeteners. We use organic cane sugar because I really did want it to get as close as it could. Unless you're one of those people who goes and gets your 5 stevia latte or sugar-free vanilla syrup or whatever, you go to a coffee shop and you're getting milk, sugar, vanilla extract, like, you're getting real things, so I wanted to
Yeah.
put that into the product to at least kinda give you that elevated taste profile relative to what you would get anywhere else in the aisle.
Mhm. Take me back to the earliest days, like a year ago when you first launched in Erewhon. I mean, I feel like you were set up very well, having sounds like you grew up in that market and you obviously had the McKinsey experience, and we all know that that's like such a great taste-making retailer. What was it like in those early days getting in there? What did you learn, and how has that kinda shaped the approach as to where you are now?
Yeah. So, something that I definitely did not talk about, or maybe I, like, briefly touched on it before, but when I started the brand, by the time I finally got the brand to market, I was, like, dead broke. Like, I had no money. I had just made I don't want like, bad financial decisions is, like, kind of extreme, but, you just, like, do things inefficiently because you don't know any
Yeah,
better. We
yeah.
were paying a ton of money for freight. We probably paid too much for cans, and we paid too much for this, that, and the other. And we had all of our money kinda tied in inventory that by the time that we got into Erewhon, we had, like, no money. I literally had to put the slotting fee on my personal credit card because I
Wow.
was like, we have no money. Like all of our money at that point was in inventory, or we had just spent, getting regulatory stuff done,
Yeah.
legal, formulation, like all that stuff. It costs so much money. So we finally launched into Erewhon. All I was focused on was moving product and like kind of
Mhm.
realizing some of that money back. So we launched there, and I think I did like 40 demos in 50 days or something like that.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
I was texting with my masters actually earlier this morning. Like it was brutal. Like so honestly, so hard on my mental health. Like it was just so rough because you're in that store for 3 hours. Do you want to try some coffee? Do you want to try some coffee? Like, and the rejection, like, I mean, it feels
Mm.
so vulnerable. No one thinks that like the founder of the company is like demoing their product in the store. So I feel like they're just so cold. Like, there's people who wouldn't even like look
Yeah.
up from their like I know you heard me. Like, there are
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
where like people would like go around to not have to interact with me. And I have so much more grace for people who sample things now. I always hear them out. Like sometimes I have so many things in my fridge that I bought because I feel bad for people that I'm never gonna drink. Because I know how brutal it is out there. But that was really, I mean, it was our first retailer. We had production on August 1st. To give you like a sense of the timeline, we had production August 1st for the first time ever. I'd sent samples to them, the next day, August 2nd. Let's say they got put in the mail. And then I think I heard back like by the 10th, had to onboard distributors, and then like by the time I finally made it to shelf, it was the middle of the month or the end of the month at that point. Um, and I really just like went ham. Everything we could possibly do to drive trial. Again, we
Yeah.
had no money though, so we weren't like donating cases and like doing all these things that people do. It really
Yeah.
was just me and my like stand-up table, in the store, hoping that people would buy enough cans that it made sense. Um, and
What
then from there, go ahead.
what did you learn from that mass quantity of interactions that you did have, from people that didn't just walk by? Like, what did you learn about the product and the business and everything?
Yeah, I think kind of the biggest thing. Well, so there are two things. One is that people don't know anything about the food they consume, for better or for worse. It's like really, it's so crazy. I mean, the amount of
Yeah.
people who would walk by me, and we actually reformulated. So we first launched, we had 10 grams of added sugar. We
Mm.
reformulated, and now we have 5. Because the like 10 to 15, like seeing it on the label just like made people sick to their stomach for whatever reason. I mean,
Yeah.
again, Erewhon is not the place to get feedback on these types of stuff. So maybe, there's a world in which we go back up or like, I don't know. But,
Yeah. I mean, it
um,
is and it isn't, right? It's like you just gotta
right,
know what you're dealing with, but yeah.
right.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, because there are people who would have the famous Haley Bieber smoothie in their hands, and that
Mm.
thing has like 80 something grams of sugar in it. And they would have the nerve, Anthony, to look me in the eye and be like, 10 grams of added sugar is too much. I
Yeah.
almost strangled about 100 people. I was like, there is no way you were gulping that down.
Yeah.
And you know what? They go to they go to the hot bar, get their combo plate, another
Mhm.
1,000 calories, mind you. I'm like, hold on. So you're about to have a 1,000 calorie meal right now, and or
Yeah.
2,000 calorie meal, and you're gonna look
Yeah.
me in the eye and tell me that 130 calories is too much for your coffee. So, and that's, I mean, I think we kind of see that again, just like we're food people, so we see it more than like normal people would. But like with the seed oils
Mhm.
thing, I mean, it's the same thing. Like no one even knows what we're talking about. And to the extent that they talk about it on all these pedestals that people are on. But so that was probably the biggest thing is that nobody knows what we're talking about. The second thing, and that I was super worried because again, I kind of had my preconceived notions that everyone at Erewhon was a vegan who was stick
Mm.
thin and like would spit on me for suggesting that they like try my latte. And that was actually not the case. It's true. It's like really intimidating.
Yeah.
A lot of people, again, there were vegans, like
Mhm.
it happens, but a lot of people were excited that there was something that had dairy in it
Mm.
and very excited with the product quality. Like a lot of people were very shocked that the product tasted how it did and that they've tried other canned coffees and for one reason or another it doesn't resonate or upsets their stomach or it's watery. Like one of our strongest product attributes is that we use, whole full fat milk and it's
Mhm.
creamy in a way that literally no other coffee products. I mean, even if you just look at like other dairy-based coffee products, A2 aside,
Mhm.
all of them use low-fat milk. Like, literally the cheapest, like,
Mm.
things that they could buy genuinely. We're out there, 4.5 to 5%, like, fat, really, really good stuff
Yeah.
because that's creamy and indulgent, and, like, you remember that. And coffee, like, tastes better, like, everything, the sugar tastes better, the coffee itself tastes better, it all just tastes better. Um, so we got really good feedback on that as well, that people, like, A2 or not, they were just excited that something had cow's milk in it.
What in that experience and now since then and the whole time the product's been in market, do you feel like is the actual customer awareness of the A2 part? Is it like 3%, 5%, where like they actually know what A2 is before they consume your product? Or even maybe like they know what A2 is and they are seeking out your product because it's A2.
So, I think it's kind of a mix, and the bulk of, like, consumer research that is done is really, like, the Instagram DMs I get as a
Yeah.
brand or, like,
Yeah.
how people caption things when they post it on their story. So,
Mhm.
a lot of times, like, people are like, "Oh, I found this is so cute," or, like, they'll be speaking about the product or the flavors. Like, "Oh, I've never seen Dirty
Mm.
Chai in a can before." Dirty Chai is our bestseller at Wegmans, funny enough.
Mm.
I would have never expected that, like, all 3 SKUs are there. But I literally think
Yeah.
it's because, like, it's familiar enough, but different enough that people have some type of expectations when they go into it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people will kind of, like, misquote the product attributes. Like, some people will be like, "Oh, it's lactose free," or, even though it's, like,
Mm.
not. But
Mhm.
they get the general idea that it's, like, gentle on sensitive tummies. Like, that's always kind of
Yeah.
the takeaway from it,
Yeah.
even if they don't quite understand the science behind why, which is fair because I had to listen to several podcasts to understand it
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Um, and there are people who I think just like that it's milk and don't really know what A2 is or care to learn.
Mhm.
It might be like a 30-30 split. I think
Mm.
because we've been very intentional in, like, following Alex Ice Cream, and of course, like, Culture Cut blew up on TikTok,
Yeah.
and again, like, I asked Alex the same question, like, did it blow up because it's cute? Did people like, did it blow up because it's the packaging's cute, the product's great, like, it's a genius kind of product, or did it blow up because people like the A2 component?
Mhm.
So, that's really hard to know.
Yeah.
There definitely are people who have, like, directly said that they're excited about it because it's A2. Someone just messaged us on Instagram yesterday saying that they're, like, an A2 diehard and they're excited for it to launch at Madison, at Whole Foods in Madison, Wisconsin, and, like,
Yeah.
all they work in, like, agriculture, like, all of their friends are all A2 diehards and, like, this whole thing, so,
Yeah.
but that's, like, Wisconsin, and they just, like, love milk there anyway, so there's probably a regionality piece to it as well. Um, NorCal, funnily enough, which probably makes sense because Blake and Stephanie have dug their roots in deep there, but,
Right.
it's our strongest region. I don't know, like, this is pre-Whole Foods. I don't know how it'll pan out, like,
Mhm.
once all of that's in place, but we have almost 3x the Northern California business than we do Southern California with the exact same
Mm.
products. I mean, you'd think that I could make some magic happen here, but, like, it's crazy, and I think that a lot of it is because people have familiarity with A2.
Mm. Yeah, I wonder what the difference in those 2 markets is between, how
It's
many people are
nuts.
back to real dairy versus still consuming mainly alt. You would think they'd be pretty similar, but,
I know, it's so insane. I mean, like, I it was
yeah.
launching it was a huge unlock for our business, but it's insane, the difference in volume.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's clear you're honing in on the A2 and, gut friendly piece because like I have the packaging pulled up for those that are just like listening to the audio. Around the rim of the can, it says Happy Tummy Coffee. Then there's kind of a big A2 dairy sticker next to the cow that's prominently featured on the front of the can. And then under Classic Latte, under the flavor or SKU name, it says gut friendly dairy. So like
Yeah.
boom, 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 you're trying to hit the customer with it in multiple different ways, both I'm sure while they're trying to reach for the can and also consuming the can. So it's like very clearly, hey, this is our kind of lead attribute. Um, when you set out to source the dairy, was it as easy as, okay, I know Alex sources from Alexander, that's my first call and my only call, or was it more of a process than that?
That kind of was actually
Yeah,
what it
it's
was,
nice when
and
it's not a crazy thing, you know?
I know. Um, it worked out because we when we first did our production run, it was right here in Southern California. They run trucks down here every week. We were exploring manufacturing facilities in Chicago or even on the East Coast, and we couldn't find anyone. They weren't running trucks there to that point. I honestly don't even know if they are now.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you can't like set up your own logistics and that type of thing. Like we run trucks up there now to pick up stuff all the time from them. But that's how it was. And I think we just ordered at that point. It was a single pallet that we ordered from them of milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my co-packer wanted to kill me because he had to unscrew like all like hand by hand. I think it added like an hour and a half to production. Like
Yeah.
literally like dump out the carton, like the half what are they, like half gallon cartons? Yeah, of milk.
Yeah.
I literally have them in my fridge right now from Whole Foods. Like literally the retail ones.
Yeah.
And then as volume grew, they started to do totes. Totes are like 275 gallons, like 275 to 200 gallons of totes. And, now we'll buy 10 totes from them, 15 totes from them. And then once you get to like really big, which actually we buy now, but you can buy tankers as well. Tankers are like the 5,000 to 7,000 gallons of milk.
Where is the regen piece? I know it's not really a prominent consumer claim. You don't have a certification. I don't think you have any romance copy on pack. And we certainly don't see that, or I don't see that as like a requirement of seeing you as part of the solution for creating demand for these ingredients and these products. But we also are very interested in figuring out how we do more kind of advanced consumer marketing. Where do you see regen and sustainability like overall in the like claim architecture and hierarchy for your product with your consumers, and maybe like the future of that for you and the brand?
Yeah, I think for us, we've been so deep, and I don't know if you've like gone through because you're gonna do the rock certification, right? So you have to get the organic, and then you go get the rock. And the organic certification process is like not for the faint of heart. It actually might be the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
You have to audit your entire supply chain, which it was a great like operational exercise for us to do. But it's to the point where I'm like calling my sugar supplier who I've never talked to on the phone and being like, "Hey, can you guys send me your organic certification?"
Yeah.
And then it's like not expired, but like the certificate's out of date. So I have to call them again and be like, "Can you guys send me an updated one?"
Yeah.
You have to audit like my co-manufacturer and do that. They came to my house because we don't have an office. We don't self-manufacture. So they just like come to your house and sit down with you at your dining table, literally where I'm sitting now. And we sat here for like 2 hours. It was like painstakingly grueling. It was awful. I was like in tears going through it because it's so many documents, things that I've never even heard of. They're asking for. And it just takes a really long time. That was probably a few months ago. It cost me a lot of money. It's relative, but it's like $1,200 for the audit. And then you have to like send, this person this and this person that. And so that's where we're at now. We've been at it for like 9 months and I cannot believe that. And that's apparently like fast. So I think to kind of answer the larger question though, it's really interesting because consumers have lost trust, I think, in a lot of certifications. Like organic was huge. Like in like 2015, organic was like, organic was Erewhon. Like organic was like, you can go and call up your farmer and kiss him and he's not using pesticides and like all of these things. And then it came out like it was like exposed or something a few years ago that like it's not like the requirements got kind of loosey-goosey and things were being like labeled organic that weren't. And I don't know. I think a lot of things that are regenerative are great. I don't know if the education piece is there for a lot of people.
For sure. Most definitely.
But it is super, not yet. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But it is super important for us as a brand to like work with farmers who like even like outside of certification, just like practice regenerative like practices because our food just doesn't hit the way it used to. It's not as nutritious as it used to be. It's not doing for us what we're expecting it to do for us. And kind of the flip side of that is it's also not doing for the earth what it used to do for the earth, which
Yeah.
I think is like kind of a really tough place to be because, maybe if it was like, okay, I'm going to turn a blind eye, but at least I know this carrot is actually going to make my eyesight better or all of these benefits that it used to. But now, I'm not getting better for it. And there's probably some questionable labor practices somewhere in the supply chain. And it's like full of ingredients and pesticides and all these things that are actually causing me long-term health issues.
Mm-hmm.
What are we really doing here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think, and that kind of goes back again. I understand COGS. You don't need me to tell you that Alexander Family Farms is really expensive milk.
Yeah.
Like it is. The fact that wholesale for a gallon of milk is $9 is
Mm-hmm.
like insane. Like you can literally go to Whole Foods and buy 10 gallons of milk, quite literally. For I mean, maybe not anymore with inflation, but you can buy several gallons. But it's just not going to do the same things for you, and you don't know its practices. And what the cows eat is what you eat, and all the cortisol and all of those things. And if you think about health from what you eat and how you eat, which again is how people should, like less about calories and less about, added sugar and less about all of these things. But if you think about like, okay, this cow was like really stressed out. This
Mm-hmm.
cow got like brutally slaughtered and had all-time high cortisol. And now I'm putting that into my body and my kid's bodies, or my dog's body, or whoever it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the long-term benefit or I guess harm that that is causing
Mm-hmm.
versus like whether or not it's organic? Like, I think that's like a moot point at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's well said and a lot to unpack there. I think there's like two or three threads I just want to pull out and highlight. One being, I think that what I'm hearing you articulate is like you're leading with product quality and you're leading with the consumer experience because,
Yeah.
as you spoke to earlier, like the vast majority of people don't know how food is made and where it comes from and probably never will. And they'll never understand a lot of the nuance that you just laid down and that nerds
Yep.
like you and I will talk about on this podcast. But if the product performs really well and it has whatever the desired like after effect or outcome for the consumer, we can at least know and trust that if we achieve that, we're leaving the door open to
Yep.
eventually maybe get them down that road or just to have them continue to buy the product because of that. And we know that that comes from these specific agricultural practices and the fact that you've, bought those ingredients and formulated the product that way. I also think, you know, we I think I try and hold a lot of empathy for the emerging brands that are trying to do this work because it is a lot of cost and added kind of bandwidth to pursue the certifications and pursue some of the claims and to figure out how you do integrate the copy into your marketing or onto your packaging or put the certification. Where do you put like all of that costs money that, as you've demonstrated in this conversation, like is very hard to come by in these early stages. And ultimately, we in the bubble can talk about how much it means to us, but to the majority of the people buying the product, it is the maybe fifth, maybe seventh, maybe eighth most important thing. And so it's kind of, to me, not fair or almost business malpractice to tell someone like you that like it needs to be your number one priority right now because that's just not true. And I don't think it's a recipe for success. So it's like, how do we celebrate your work, support your work, and talk about it transparently, and hope that eventually you can talk about it more overtly and have the certifications and do all that, but also acknowledge that like you're still helping sell more A2 regenerative organic milk, and that's fantastic. So like let's go. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and, like, to that point, I'm sure this is not the only person. One of my friends from college actually was like, "You introduced me to A2, now all I buy is Alexander." She buys
Mhm.
their, like, sour cream and their yogurt and their eggnog and, like, all
Yeah.
of their things, and, again, like, that might not be someone who even if you, like, look at, like, I don't think I saw Clover Sonoma launched A2.
Mhm.
At nearly half the price point as Alexandria is, which is like
Mhm.
a tough place to be. Like, frankly, when you have
Yeah.
two Northern California milk companies launch the exact same product and one is half the cost as the other. And that's kind of where those attributes come in because beyond like product loyalty, I mean, like again, I still buy Alexander, but um, it's like are consumers willing to pay more
Mhm.
twice the cost when there's a nearly identical, and again, Blake and Stephanie, if you're watching this, you have the best milk in the world, all of those things, but, a nearly identical for all intents and purposes product, um, if you don't value those things. So I think that that's where it gets difficult, like, again, the 3 Ps, what is it? Products, packaging, and positioning. and or price, or I don't know, it's probably maybe 4 Ps. But there's all of those things, and again, like those four, and then nutrition facts, and then accessibility from like is it only at Erewhon, or can they get it when they do their organic shopping? And then you know is the flavors they like, and is it resealable or not resealable, and like 20,000 consumer preferences that come before, for not everyone, but before people are like, oh, is it organic, let alone is it regenerative?
Mhm. And are
So I think
you
that people go ahead.
are from a certification perspective, your main motivator in pursuing organic and rock is retailers are asking you for it. You think it actually matters with the consumer. You think it's a differentiator. It's, will be one of the first or the first in the category. Like what are your main motivators for trying to get there with both of those?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we use like ingredients that it's like a no-brainer. We don't have to change any of our supply chain to be able to get that certification. So
Yeah.
a lot of it from like a business perspective was like, why are we paying a premium for all of these ingredients if we're
Mhm.
not going to reap the benefits of the certification? Like otherwise I'll just
Yeah.
switch to like non-organic sugar, non-organic vanilla extract. Like why am I going to pay
Right.
whatever 10%, 20% premium, whatever it is? Um, and another piece of that is like for some retailers, Jimbo's, for example, you have to be organic to be in their set.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Not that Jimbo's is gonna do $1 million in revenue for us for a year, but to
Yeah.
think about like building out the roadmap, and I'm sure they're not the only ones that require that.
Mhm.
So that's super important to us. And then I think that there are people doing great work on the farm side specifically. Like I think the Pangolin sisters are doing great things to build
Yeah.
awareness to of farming in general and like good practices, because
Yeah.
that's as far as the consumer really cares to like understand, and that's the
Right.
part of their story that's resonated with a lot of their consumers. um and they're doing great things for dairy industry as a whole, but I do think that it is going to move the needle in the same way that like seed oils are, but it's hard to like zoom out. Like I don't know if I called my dad right now and asked him what regenerative agriculture is, like I can't say that he would know, and he lives in LA. So
Mhm.
even within LA there's like all of these bubbles.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Like you said earlier, like we have a long way to go in terms of awareness and actual knowledge of what it is.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of these products and brands that are succeeding and doing a good job with that individual storytelling, that is like the perfect ladder for us to build some sort of more unified, cohesive narrative as a group and as an industry
Yep.
that we do have momentum and we do have progress and we do see, growth there. I'm also extremely biased and, I need that to happen for the things that I want to see happen. So I acknowledge that bias. Um, let's talk about future growth. So
Let's do it.
my assumption is, hey, you got your 3 hero SKUs and let's just go, let's go get this core set of SKUs on as many doors with good velocities as possible. What beyond that, or correct me if that's wrong, to the next the short-term growth and then maybe long-term growth after that looks like? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think for me, I am super excited, and like I don't think that I think about Laurel's as a coffee company. Funny
Mm,
enough,
mm,
I love actually what Chobani's kind of done in their acquisition of La Colombe and their, you know, $1 billion investment in a dairy plant upstate New York, or however much money they spent on it. Because I do think that like I'm bullish on dairy, and I don't think like when I first started the brands, I was like, I want to reclaim dairy for Gen Z and younger millennial women, the same
mm,
way that Poppy has reclaimed soda
yeah,
for that same demographic. Because it is like, again, I mean, I literally have a Poppy right here. It's like soda's back, like it had, and I was like the core demographic, because I was the person who was like, I turned, I don't know, 14 or 15, and I was like, soda has a lot of sugar in it. Like, I don't want to go out to eat and down a Coke. Like, that just added 300 calories to my meal.
yeah,
And then it was like the sparkling water became huge. And it was like the LaCroix and the bubblies and, you know, um, Bora, and like all of those brands started to make a lot of sense. And then like Poppy and Olipop launched alongside several others. Um, but that's where I was like, okay, obviously this is not like this lemon lime poppy is not a mountain, or not a Mountain Dew. It's not a Sprite.
mhm,
Like if I really want a Sprite, I'm gonna go to the gas station and like buy a Sprite.
Yeah.
But you can drink it every day.
Mm.
You can drink multiple, honestly, every day, and like you would still be fine.
Mhm.
It's 4 or 5 grams of added sugar. Like it's very approachable. There's few people, unless you literally only drink water, who like won't drink this.
Yeah.
And it really did like reclaim soda. And I think that's where dairy is headed. That's why I want dairy to be headed anyway.
Mhm.
And it's not without the work that, again, the Pangolin sisters and Alex Ice Cream, again, not that their thesis is to like reclaim dairy, but who would have thought that like 30-year-olds, I mean, that's how old they are, 30, or
Yeah.
like 35-year-olds would like be launching dairy-based companies.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of product lines that excite me. Like creamer is super exciting to me.
Mm.
Because really the only innovation you see there is in Chobani.
Mhm.
There's not, or like, there's every dairy farm has a creamer product, but it's just like heavy whipping cream. Like it's not
Right.
flavored. It's not, you know, not that protein is like, I wouldn't probably make a protein creamer. That's not our brand, but like there's not,
My
um,
28-year-old girlfriend is obsessed with the Chobani creamer, so that's the
yes, I mean, and
marketing tone right there.
they're delicious. Like they crush that product.
Yeah.
So, um, mac and cheese is super interesting. I don't know if you've seen, Boss Cow.
Mm-mm. No.
It's super small. You can only order online, but they actually do A2 mac and cheese.
Mm.
So, and A2 cookies, funny enough, cookies and mac and cheese. Um,
Nice.
and, a protein RTD is super interesting to me because it'd be
Mhm.
like a relatively low lift, all things considering, but I don't think that I'd probably launch something higher margin like creamer than, launch another like single serve beverage, but multi-serve could be interesting. But again, like these are all kind of other channels. And then like, the North Star being like, I don't know, like mac and cheese or cinnamon rolls or like something that
Mhm.
you wouldn't even think of has dairy in it, or like pizza even. Like all of these things that people usually sacrifice the tummy ache for.
Mhm.
That's not necessarily like you don't need to. Like what if you just like didn't need to?
Yeah.
Which I think is what Alex does a great job at, is that, it's not just like, I mean, the flavors are insane. Like you don't need to go to Jenny's or Ben& and Jerry's or Van Leeuwen to have like an absolutely indulgent, insane pint of ice cream. Like
Yeah.
you can get that here and you can also not shit yourself after. Like the two things can be real.
It's so funny because, the difference in consuming that product is so different, and I'm thinking of one of my, buddies from college football who's, like, just a giant white Midwestern man who, like, consumes dairy, I'm sure, regularly and all kinds of regular dairy, and I have him hooked on Alex, and like, most time I see him, he'll be like, "Dude, I can just eat a whole pint, and I have no,
Mhm.
like, just frozen gut," basically, whereas, like, if I eat any other ice cream, like, I'm just, like, down for the count the entire next
Yeah.
morning. Um so I do wanna ask one more question more about the short term, like, all this new Whole Foods distribution, and I'm sure a lot of the other doors that you have recently opened or are going to open soon, how do you, like, work on increasing velocity and increasing, movement at those stores? Is it a sampling thing? Is it geo-targeted ads? Like, what is it like specifically in RTD coffee that works for y'all's products?
Yeah, so I think for us, and we're going to see how this pans out over the next few
Yeah,
months, but um, we try to keep dollars as close to the shelf as possible because it's
yeah,
easier for us to understand that return.
mm,
So we haven't done like these crazy influencer gifting campaigns. We don't have billboards. Like we're not doing, for lack of a better term, like crazy stuff like that. One,
yeah,
because we just like don't. I'm not going to spend like 25 grand on a billboard or something. Like I just don't.
right,
We just don't have the money to spend like that. And then also, like, it's hard to know what's working and what's not working if it's so zoomed out from where people actually make their point of purchase. Like,
mhm,
you can get assaulted by something 1,000 times on Instagram ads, and like maybe you'll finally buy it or maybe not. But if you come across someone in a demo or an end cap, end caps are great. Promos are great.
mhm,
We have like bottleneckers, like the things that you like see in stores, like coupons. We're doing coupons, like a free can on us.
mhm,
Um, so anything that we can really focus on to drive trial at the point of purchase. is where we're investing time and resources right now. Um, and then once, we've exhausted that, which you can honestly probably never exhaust that. Like, you have to do demos for years
Mhm.
before running out of people to sample. But then we'll kind of look to other avenues, or like once the financials kind of make a little bit more sense. Like, you've been investing a little bit more in influencer marketing, um, like with some TikToker, like making content and stuff like that to just get general
Yeah.
brand awareness. But it's not my favorite because, a video might go viral, but it might go viral for people who only live
Right.
250 miles away from Whole Foods. So, um, as we think of retail, like, we're the Target reviews right now, so we're in review for that. There's like a Kroger banner review, so not Kroger,
Mm.
it's way too many doors, but like a
Yeah.
Ralph's, kind of like their higher end banners, and then really try and crack Sprouts for next year,
Mm.
which would be great. Like, once you just have more distribution, it's a lot easier to invest in those more kind of broad campaigns. But
Yeah.
even with 540 Whole Foods, I think they're only in like 40, only being relative, but like in 42 states.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the day where only people in coastal elite cities were influencers, it made sense. But even with this influencer campaign we're doing now, like, we're sending packages to people who live in like Arkansas or something and like literally don't even live in your home. So
Yeah.
it's hard to conceptualize that this is like necessarily worth the ROI.
Yeah, and I feel like that Whole Foods consumer spends more of their wallet elsewhere than they ever have before,
Mhm.
right? Like, they're shopping around more, and they're not
Yeah.
just going and getting everything at Whole Foods anymore, so it's a little bit different dynamic there as well. But, I mean, what you just shared makes a ton of sense to me and follows, I would say, like, industry best practice of a brand of your stage at your level of distribution, like, keep those dollars near the shelf because, like, all that matters is driving that velocity and keeping those placements and, expanding the strength of that kind of initial success. Um, let's take it to the macro, uh, and I'll ask you our final question, that we ask everybody, which is, how do we get regen brands to have 50% market share by 2050? Where do you see this whole regen thing going, in the next 25 years?
Yeah, I think that it's easy to be like, "Oh, education, education," but I think that there's
Yeah,
a lot of people who are misinformed about their food in general. Again, to, like, talk about what we were talking about earlier with the Haley Bieber smoothie, and I think that social media is a huge part of that, for better or for worse. The seed oil movement started on social media. The raw milk movement, honestly, got a lot of traction because of social media. Like, a lot of people,
yeah,
vaccines, like, whether people are pro or against them, a lot of that's on social media. Like, everything is just picking up so much traction, and so much information, so much misinformation spreads so quickly. Like, what's the lie made around the world before the truth, like, put its shoes on. I think that's so true in the
mm,
age of digital media and content, especially with how anyone can be a content creator. Like, people will literally just get on the internet and make videos and lie, like, blatantly, and it goes viral. So, um, I think that, like, a lot of people, which again is always hard because the people who are educated in general, as in, like, have any knowledge, are the people who always do, which are the people in New York and the people in LA and San Francisco and Chicago and Miami, and never the people who, like, make up, again, not the bulk of, like, consumer spending because obviously people spend more money, but, like, the people who are actually gonna move the needle forward, which are the people with, like, heart disease because they're 500 pounds and, like, think that, like, eat donuts every day and, like, unimaginable things to, like, us in LA, but, like, people like that do, and, like, people like that exist, and it's like why
yeah,
people when I talk to investors and they're like, What if, like, dairy doesn't come back as a trend?" I'm like, there's millions of people who never stopped drinking it.
mm,
And I just don't like I think those are the people that we need to educate. And it's not even again, like, I never wanna talk about diet from, like, a calories and, like, honestly, donuts probably wasn't even the best example, but it's like, hey, like, if you think about your health more holistically and
right,
think more critically about the food that we're eating and where it's coming from, and there's a lot of again, sometimes it's accessibility. The farmer's market's expensive as shit. Like, I go and buy $15 small things of blueberries that I can get cheaper at Whole Foods. Like I understand that like accessibility is a big component of this.
Right.
I was a public health major, like don't I know these things. So but I think that like again, back to like carrots not being nutritious as they used to be, or like soil quality being ass and like all of these things,
Mhm.
people just don't know that. I don't think that
Right.
they don't care to know that because you can go ask a mom, like during one of my Erewhon demos, I met someone who was in there shopping with EBT, and I think it's great that Erewhon takes EBT.
Mhm.
Um, like shout out accessibility for sure. But like she was in there with her baby and she was just I was like, "Oh, do you wanna try coffee?" Whenever we started talking, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, like, I've never been here, it's really intimidating for me, but I really wanna get good food for my child."
Mm.
Like, people generally want to do right
Mhm.
by their kids or by their partner, and I think that it's super important not to think that they don't want to, but they just don't know better. Like,
Mhm.
even when I was growing up and again, grew up to 2 incredible parents who loved me a lot, but, like, I struggled with childhood obesity. Like, I weighed more in high school than I do now. Like, and they just
Mm.
didn't know better. Like, you know, you go I was eating those, like, diet thins or, like, wheat thins, like, all these, like, diet snacks and,
Right.
like but also eating, like, Twinkies and also drinking soda and, like, all of these things. And you can look back on it now and be like, "Oh my gosh, like, why would you ever let your kid drink soda?" But that's just, like, what they did
Mhm.
and they didn't know better, that's how they grew up. So, I do think that there is, like, a component to that where it's like, "Hey, you know, maybe if you can make this switch,
Yeah.
maybe if you can buy this water filter, maybe if you can go out and, like, go to your farmer's market, or, you know, at least buy vegetables from your farmer's market, or buy your meat from, I don't know, like, the dollar store and buy your vegetables." Like, I do think there are like, an education piece, and if you tell them these things in a way that makes sense to layman's terms, I think you get a lot farther. But I think a lot of these movements feel so elitist
Yeah.
and inaccessible, and if you don't understand it, you're stupid and poor, and, like, this is not for you. I think
Mhm.
that's a lot of the issue with health in general in this country, and I think that, like, that's where regenerative needs to go. And the flip side of that is, like, you know, any incentives that we can actually, like, offer people, like, farmers specifically, people at the source to
Right.
do better, will only help things as they move up the chain.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. A lot to unpack there.
Like, even I mean, even even with the Alexanders, I'm like, "You guys have gotta get more cows." Like,
Yeah.
"You gotta get more cows," and they're like, "We, like, literally can't." Like, there's, like, constraints to the land and, like, all these things, like rotational farming, all these things, and I'm like, "Okay, so you're, like, kinda tapping out your, like, business
Mhm.
capabilities unless you go out and buy more land, which is really expensive."
Yeah.
So, like, either you, like you can only make X millions of dollars a year, or you stop being regenerative because you stop all those practices. And, like, at some
Right.
point, I don't know, you wanna grow your business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of layers, when you're talking about everything from farming in complex biological systems all the way through end product sales to a consumer. A lot of what you shared resonated, but I think the one thing I would highlight for sure is we have got to do a better job of getting motivated mothers on board with this regen thing, and whatever people's opinions are on MAHA and or how this administration's actually handled, creating momentum via the MAHA movement, what's very clear is, like, informed, motivated mothers will do shit, right?
mhm,
They will move, and for us, you know, selfishly, I want those people to buy as many regen products and from regen brands as possible, um, and like you said, showing up in the places that they are receiving that information and in the dynamic ways that they're responding to that information, I think is like a constant challenge that when I try and think about actually doing it, my head starts to explode, but we have to do a better job of
yeah,
it because it's going so fast and it's just, you know, it's where all those things are being shaped, and originating from, like you mentioned. So,
yeah,
definitely a couple things I'm going to spend some more time on and have been kind of ruminating on for a little while.
yeah, definitely the moms. I mean, even, like, seed oil movement, it's picked up traction so quickly, and if you look at, like, a seed oil-free brand and look at a story repost, 9 times out of 10, it's some, like, influencer mom or, like, "So happy to buy these for my kids or my husband or my wife for that matter," or, kind of whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I think that, like, again, I truly believe in my heart that the most, like, dead broke, like, person, mom, who's just, like, come into an unfortunate situation would spend her last $5 on buying
Mhm.
her child something better if she knew that it was better for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen.
And so many people think that that's, like, the calories in, calories out piece. And, like, I think that's where we kinda get stuck as a society, unfortunately.
Yeah. I agree. I think there's progress there as well. I think some of this more like informed and available nutrition data and science is also going to be helpful there. But super fun conversation, fascinating. I really appreciate you making some time. Congrats on all the success in the very early years of the brand. I'm sure it's felt like an eternity, but you've done quite a lot in a short amount of time. Um, if anyone wants to check out more, we'll obviously link a bunch of stuff in the show notes, but the URL is Laurels.com, drinklaurels.com. Um, Isabel, this has been fun. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you guys.
For transcripts, show notes, and more information on this episode, check out our website, regen-brands.com. That is regen-brands.com. You can also check out our YouTube channel, Regen Brands, for all of our episodes with both video and audio. The best way to support our work is to give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also subscribe to our newsletter, the Regen Brands Weekly, and follow our Regen Brands LinkedIn page to stay in the know on all the latest news, insights, and perspectives from the world of regenerative CPG. Thanks so much for tuning into the Regen Brands podcast. We hope you learned something new in this episode and it empowers you to use your voice, your time, your talent, and your dollars to help us build a better and more regenerative food system. Love you guys.